So a couple of things about Xerox in our reinvention program. It's really around a couple of things. First, we start with the client experience. How do we drive value for our clients? Specifically in our production space, how do we think about driving productivity? How do we think about adding value to our clients, whether it's around service, whether it's around software, whether it's around AI, not just for today, but for the future. So if you think about how do you think about training operators in the future, you think about how do you drive more value out of the print infrastructure. Service is a key component of it. We need to keep these environments up and running, but more importantly, the more our clients run their systems and the more they have uptime, the more money that they can make, the more value they can drive, number one. Number two, the more they can drive for their end client value, whether it's around how do you think about wedding invitations, how do you think about marketing invitations, how do you drive unique output in print that allows you to drive your client's output. Maybe it's a happier wedding, maybe it's a happier birthday invitation, whatever it may be, we want to be able to drive that. And then the last point is we want to go and think about technology around software and AI very specifically. How do we think about AI and technology and software that drives a unique experience in and around our production environment? You know, we can all innovate on the hardware, but how do you innovate in service? How do you innovate in software? How do you drive client outputs that's different than anybody else in the industry? And so Xerox, we're reinventing ourselves. We're really focusing on client output, driving value, and we are the only ones in the industry that are making hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, $2.5 billion of investments over the last 18 months inside of technology that's going to drive a difference in the future. Yeah, so the first and most important message is we are doubling down in production. We're going to grow our production. We're not shrinking it. We made a decision around production manufacturing, very similar to what you saw in the laptop industry many, many years ago. You know, you take a look at Lenovo, Dell, HP, they don't manufacture their own products. They have partners that do that extremely well. And so we've decided specifically in manufacturing, we're going to get out of the manufacturing business in the high-end production. We will partner with more people that, and we're going to surprise a lot of people, we're actually going to have a broader portfolio than we had 6 months ago over the next 6 months. Broader portfolio over the next 6 months than we had 6 months ago, right? And that's going to be a combination of partnering, but more importantly, investing in our software. You talk about FreeFlow and FreeFlow Core and the things we're doing there. We are putting amazing technology around how do we make operators more productive. How do you take your operators and give you more time? How do you take the jobs that automatically set up the environment and drive better output? How do you use different ways in which you can see how embellishment of color can actually drive more gross margin for your outcome for your clients? And so we're embedding in software AI capabilities. We're embedded in our software productivity for operators, but more importantly, how do you get more out of the environment and investments that you've already made? And then lastly, when you think about where print is going, specifically in production, whether it's around packaging, whether it's around digital print, we will play in those spaces. We're going to surprise a lot of people in terms of where we are, but we build it on top of our leadership in service, our leadership in market care. When I say about market, we know our clients. We know their end clients. That is innovation in itself. How do you innovate in and around publishing housings? How do you innovate in and around marketing? How do you innovate in and around, whether it's around hospitals or education, whatever the output may be, we understand what our clients are printing for, we understand what they're marketing for, and how do we help them grow their business. Yeah, when I took the job as CEO in August of 22, I was very, very bullish on we need to double our partner system. And so over the last year, we've done a lot of indirect. We're in a lot of direct to indirect. We've taken a lot of our business and we've driven it through our partners. I want to be your partner of choice, not that I'm going to drive product through my partner ecosystem. What does that mean? That means that I work with my partners on how do I actually grow your business. Not how do I grow my business, but how do I grow your business? When you grow, I grow as a part of that. Each and every one of my partners has a unique relationship with the end client. You know them better than I do. You know them better than my direct team does. And so we want to leverage that relationship. And when I say relationship, it's trusted around security. It's trusted around, you know my business. It's trusted around, we have relationships, sometimes 40, 50 years relationship in certain carriers. And so we want to make sure that we leverage the partnership, but we bring value into that. So where we're seeing expansion in technology, how do we bring technology to you as a partner? When we talk about expansion of software and AI, how do we bring those capabilities to you? One of the things that we've rolled out recently is a whole learning environment for our partners so that they can learn new technology, they can learn how to train operators, they can learn how to train their sales team on where new technology is going. So the partner ecosystem is incredibly important for me. I want to double that business, and I double that through being the partner of choice for my partners.
Represents to some of our production partners.
So recently we acquired a company called IT Savvy. We had a IT services business inside of Xerox traditionally. Over the last 2 years we've been building that. We now have acquired a company, $450 million, which now we're starting to approach the $900 million number in terms of IT solutions. What does that mean? That means that Xerox can now help you in every aspect of the IT stack. If you think about print today, in an IT budget, it's about 1% of the IT budget. With the IT solutions that we now bring, we now can represent 90% of the stack. Why is that important? Because when we go into production shops, we can help you with the entire ecosystem. Security as a service, cybersecurity. We can think about how do you bring AI. AI without data is like a cell phone without a network connection. How do we help our production clients think about data? The physical and the digital world are colliding today. All right? Before something gets on a print, in our production shop, it's in the digital world. Well, guess what? We can now put an ecosystem around that digital world to be able to enhance the value that a production shop has. We could put things like QR codes on output for marketing, or put QR codes on invoices that now drive a 360 client experience that the production shop can now get into other adjacencies that they've never been in before, just simply with adopting and learning the things that Xerox can bring to them. And so that's one of the things we're trying to help is the entire IT services solution, bringing it into our production shops, helping with them if they want to grow their business, either in a CES environment, which is a customer engagement environment. We can help them with growing marketplaces that drives more print into their production shop. We can help them with AI. How do you think about AI that drives a variety of different unique outputs inside of their production shops? And we've made major investments in that space. Any industry that is going through what we call consolidation, right? It starts with the market is shrinking a little bit. And so our print market is going to decline 2 to 3%. I did the IBM PC spin out and built Lenovo. At the time, there was probably 10 to 15 players in that space. Today, there's 4. We will see the same thing in our space today, right? There is not enough profit. There is not enough growth where we could sustain the number of players that are in this industry today. And as I've been very, 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 very vocal, we are going to reinvent ourselves to be able to be the consolidator. We recently acquired Lexmark. That's a consolidation. You will see consolidations in other areas, and we're seeing some of the Japanese players trying to consolidate by doing joint ventures. They're doing consolidation of procurement. That's one way of consolidation, but it's not going to be enough. It's not going to be enough to be able to drive. And so we will definitely be the consolidator of these industry today. We're going to lead it. We're going to drive it. But more importantly, we're going to continue to invest. There's nobody that's investing in technology, nobody investing in consolidation, nobody investing in innovation like Xerox is investing. We truly will be here not only today, but for the future. And we're going to drive change in our industry.
Africa and the opportunity it represents.
First, Dan, absolutely honored to be here in South Africa, and I think it's one of the markets that has a tremendous opportunity for growth, tremendous opportunity to help accelerate change in the country. You know, you think about the amount of demographics that you have that are in your favor today, your young demographics, the necessity for driving change and innovation, the ability to be able to grow the GDP economy because you have such vast amount of white space that you can grow your opportunity. So I'm excited about the partnership. I'm excited about Altron and what we've been doing historically and what we can do over the next 10, 15, 20 years together.
Great stuff. Thank you. Had with Fujifilm.
Well, first of all, you know, technology has a long history of companies that have been partners to companies that become, we call them frenemies, meaning they have competing products, but they exist and they grow together, right? You think about Intel, Microsoft, you think about all the OEM players in that space. When Microsoft started to build their own end devices and their hardware, you think about how some of the other companies shifted from Microsoft to Google and Chrome and so forth. And so that will happen and is happening in our industry. Look, we have a great relationship with Fuji. We have roughly 50% of our environment goes through their infrastructure. They are important to us. We are important to them from a go-to-market perspective. And we will continue to be great partners as we go forward. However, there will be areas where we compete directly, whether we expand in a geography or we expand in a piece of technology. That's the evolution of technology companies, right? But when I think about the strength of Xerox, the go-to-market capabilities, our service capabilities, what we do in and around innovation in software, our focus on clients, we will look for more hardware providers in the OEM space that match the vision of where we're trying to go in the future. Fuji will be a big part of that. They're a big part of our A3 strategy. They're a big part of our production strategy. They just won't be the entire portfolio going forward. So we will absolutely have them as a great partner and a great part of our ecosystem going forward, but we'll also look for other OEM partners to be able to help drive and accelerate the vision for driving value for our clients.